What's up, YouTubers? When you start a YouTube video like that, you know you're gonna make it big on YouTube. We're gonna do a little more YouTube on. Let me not make promises that I can't keep, but I'd like to do more YouTube. I'll just say that. Let's keep it fucking open-ended so that you can't pin me down on any of this shit. If I promise a YouTube every Tuesday, some Tuesdays maybe I don't want to do it. Not every game is as entertaining as Bears-Steelers last night. We thought we were in for a rock fight. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't fun if you wanted to see a game that wasn't taken over by the officials. We'll get to that in a little bit. But I had a great time last night. Took a bunch of edibles and watched Monday Night Football, which is like most Monday nights, only I made a joke on Twitter that went about like this. It said, what happens first, the edible kicks in or the Bears score first? I was on the Bears. I had the Bears in a teaser, so they were getting 14, and the total was 47. Hindsight is 2020. I flirted with teasing the over down. That's what I should have done, because I had a feeling that Justin Fields would figure this thing out as the game went on. I set the odds at minus 330 that the edible would kick in first, and it did. The edible kicked in the red zone. The Bears kicked the field goal. I had people tweeting at me like, damn, you really are high. I'm like, hey, welcome to my Twitter account. Like, literally, if you're reading a tweet, what I'm probably doing is following along with a game that I have money on an edible, like any night. So Monday nights, they're going to be edible gummy night football. Call it gummy night football. Every Monday night, come to me, and you'll get some good tweets on Twitter. I'm Joel91. Joel91, is that it, Cowboy Reed?
That is the Twitter account you created.
I have a hard time plugging the podcast. I have a hard time plugging my social, but check that out. Glad you joined us on Greenlight Tube. Listen, couple news items before I break this game down a little bit. Aaron Rodgers is not getting dropped by State Farm. That is a shock, huh? On Sunday on the pod, I was like, dude, my big gripe with Aaron is just that, like, well, besides we disagree on all the other stuff, but I don't want to bore you guys with that. I'd be the 10,000th person who pointed out various like fact-checking type deals from the McAfee interview. But my big problem is that cancel culture is not really that fucking real, man. It's not that real. You lost a healthcare partnership. Huge shocker. Like, there's like a bunch of doctors over there. Doctors disagree with you. You know that even. So State Farm standing by Aaron. Some people said like, hey, but the ads were down to 1%. So 1% of State Farm ads, actually 1.5%. Even in the South, State Farm had like de-emphasized their Aaron Rodgers coverage this weekend. Can they take the fucking weekend? He's kind of like a trending topic. That doesn't mean they canceled him, dude. They actually came out over the last 48 hours and said, we're not canceling Aaron Rodgers. I don't know if Aaron's happy or sad about that, because he said he was climbing into his cancel culture coffin, and nothing's happened, dude. Like, really nothing's happened. He's going to take the field Sunday. He's going to play great. The Packers are as good as any Packers team I've seen since I've retired and started covering this stuff. A couple weeks ago, I said, I finally believe in them. I was like one of the foremost Packers haters when they were 13-3 the last 2 years, and people were saying, you just hate the Packers fans. No, you just weren't ready. Your defense has showed up 2 weeks in a row here in different scenarios. One, where you didn't have your coordinator. Two, where you didn't have your quarterback and you had to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. You didn't do that, but you kept your offense in the game, and they had plenty of chances. I outlined them on the podcast on Sunday night. The Packers had plenty of chances to win that game thanks to the defense. So I think that the Packers are ready to make a run. I think that Aaron Rodgers will be back Sunday. I think you'll see a lot of State Farm commercials, and you'll realize that cancellation is most times it's a look over here thing. It's not real. It's not real. Aaron's fine. He's rich. He's famous. He's good looking. He's going to win Super Bowl MVP, and they're going to run State Farm commercials the whole Sunday. And at the speech, he's going to say, man, we really overcame cancel culture this year. I'm very proud of me and my team. So Aaron will be back. Let's not panic about Aaron, the football player. But come on, man, cancel culture doesn't apply here. I don't know where it applies when it comes to athletes. If you didn't do anything illegal, you're probably not getting canceled. You're still going to make a fuck ton of money, and you're still going to have a bunch of people to love you. And that's kind of the way it's played out. People will forget about this thing, for better or for worse. That's just the way things are. People are forgiving in this country, even if you lie. Aaron Rodgers, he'll be back Sunday. I'll bet the Packers. They're going to play the Seahawks. I will bet the Packers. Nick Chubb has COVID, so he's going to be out this week. So just when the Browns think they have it together, you know, their best player, I mean, like Myles Garrett, probably their best player, their second best player. Myles Garrett and Nick Chubb, damn, they have two like Hall of Fame caliber guys on that football team. I don't know of a back that scares me more than Nick Chubb right now. You could argue that different guys could maybe do more. The guy's averaging like 9 yards a carry, dude. He had 9 yards a carry the other day. 8-man boxes, like 100+ yards on like 8 carries. So there's just nobody like this guy. And when you lose a guy like that, especially a week after you weather that Odell storm, all the injuries, Baker looks good. You know, he doesn't have to do a ton, but what you ask him to do, he does a great job at it. This is like really sweeping the rug out from under these guys, and they got to play the Patriots of all teams. And you know Bill, who's as big a Jim Brown fan as anybody, Brown's running backs, I bet he sees a little bit of Jim Brown in Nick Chubb, and I bet that Bill Belichick is pretty relieved that he doesn't have to deal with Nick Chubb on Sunday. It's a pick 'em right now. I like the Patriots. I don't want to overthink this one. I don't know where the money is. I like the Pats. By the way, I'm going to be doing Thursday Night Football on Amazon. The line for the Baltimore-Miami game is like 9. Harbaugh. It's the Kiko Alonso revenge game. They're going to kick the shit out of these guys. They're going to kick the shit out of these guys. And I'm out for blood because I had the Texans this week, and somehow they didn't cover against the mighty Dolphins. So this week, Dolphins not covering the spread. Book it. Lamar, the Ravens, they're not that good. Lamar covers up for a lot of their deficiencies. I've said this over and over again. At some point, the clock's going to strike midnight on this team. They've won a lot of close ball games, overtime games, 2-1 in overtime games. You know, crossbar, beat the Lions. Clock's not going to strike. They're not going to turn into pumpkins against the fucking Dolphins, dude. They're gonna beat the shit out of the Dolphins. I see this being a little bit more of a vintage Ravens win than the way they've won lately. So take the Ravens on Thursday night. Take the Patriots on Sunday. I'll get back to you on the rest of it. I lean Packers. I mean, the Packers are like 3-point favorites or 3-point dogs. Either way, I don't know how they make that out against the Seahawks. They should be 3-point favorites. 4-point favorites. By the point. You know me, I like buying points. Last night, Steelers, big win for them at home. This thing feels like a little bit wide open. All these teams have yo-yoed. Like for 2 weeks, Cincinnati was the flavor of the week. For a few weeks before Baltimore got their asses handed to them finally, they were the flavor of the week. You know, the Steelers, everybody's kind of sleeping on them, but they're creeping up because they play good defense, and Najee Harris has been good. They have playmaking wide receivers and a guy who can still shot put the ball 35 yards. Last night, I mean, he loaded up that RPG, 7-step drop. Fucking, I was like, RPG! Thing went like 36 yards. He still can get the ball where it needs to go. And, you know, we think about health, or we don't think about health with these quarterbacks. You see Matt Ryan in Atlanta kind of slowly getting healthy. Well, I don't know that he had something going on, but he looks different this time of year than he did earlier in the year. Maybe there's something with Ben where, you know, as the year goes on, he gets right. Maybe he had something, you know, nagging in camp. A lot of times coming out of camp, and this is for position players, so I can't say this for a quarterback for sure, but you can endure some little things that don't show up on the injury report, or maybe do, and then they disappear, and you're still dealing with them for weeks or months. Like I had a torn quad coming out of camp, like not torn like down the middle, but just a little quad tear in my right quad, and so every game, like I had 2 sacks against the Falcons coming out my last year, 2018 in the opener. But after the game, my knee filled up with a bunch of blood that drained out of my quad. Now, that never shows up on the injury report. That took 6-7 weeks to go away. You know, and that was a camp injury. I heard it against the Browns, I think it was. I aggravated against the Browns in camp. I just say that to say, like, these things don't show up, and maybe they can inhibit quarterbacks from making the throws. It's a very technical position. It's a lot of little muscles working in that position, throwing the football. And at that age, little things can pop up and maybe they go away. I'm not trying to sell you a dream with the Steelers. I did that last year. They were my Super Bowl pick and the bottom fell out from under them. I don't know that it's funny. I don't know that any of these teams are elite teams in the NFL. I know Baltimore is going to be a consensus top 5 team. I'm just telling you, trust your eyes on a lot of these position players in Baltimore. They're not quite the same team that they have been in the past. I don't know that any of these teams with what we've seen from Cincinnati the last 2 weeks are really primed to make a run right now. A lot can change the rest of the year. I don't know who I trust to win this division, but it's fun. First time since 2008, you've had 2 divisions this late in the year that have had all winning teams. Thank you for that, Cowboy Reed. So, fun division. Who knows who wins it? I have a feeling it's probably the Ravens because Lamar Jackson is an MVP. He can cover up for so many deficiencies, but the way they live dangerously, I just don't trust them down the stretch. I don't trust Pittsburgh down the stretch, obviously, because of the whole RPG situation. It's the quarterback thing, man. And I don't trust I don't know that Cincinnati's quite ready. I kind of jumped the gun a couple weeks ago and called them a contending team. Maybe they are. At this point in the season, obviously it doesn't look that way. 2 weeks in a row, they've really struggled. And I'm forgetting the Browns, who I just don't trust. I don't trust. It's the least trustworthy best division. I just don't know. But Justin Fields, he grew up last night a little bit, and I've liked Justin Fields. I don't watch a lot of Bears games. I mean, I do on like my 14 TV wall, but they haven't exactly played themselves into the big TV arena over here at Greenlight Studios on Sunday. So I'm watching them a lot, and you'll hear different things about Justin Fields, but I've watched him enough to know that I like him. I like his demeanor. I like his style of play. The throws that he makes, the ball's got zip on it. He throws the ball moving on the run pretty well. That's something that Matt Nagy's taking shit for not getting him out on the edge. More QB design run stuff. This guy's huge. His comp for me was like a more athletic Carson Wentz. And I'm talking about the 2017 Carson Wentz. I'm saying like big, strong guy who can make all the throws and can really hurt you with the football in his hand scrambling. But he's not that guy that you think of that's like scrambling first. He's got the build of a pocket quarterback, but he can really get out and go. He hurt that team with his legs and his arm as the game went on last night. He never really had a chance to get going last night. The field position off the bat was terrible for them. It was great for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh smacked Chicago in the mouth the first drive defensively, and you're playing catch-up in a game on the road that you don't really want to play catch up. This is an in-phase game for you if you're the Bears. You want to keep this thing in phase, but they're down 14-0. So not an ideal situation for Justin Fields. He really grew as the game went on. He made really big throws in like a 10-minute span. I'll really remember these throws. They're backed up on that long drive. They got the field goal that they suffered a bunch of really inexcusable penalties on the part of the refs and Correnti. And that crew, you had the phantom low block, you had a missed roughing the passer, but early in that drive, they're backed up on like the 7-yard line. They're back there because the Bears defense started the game with a penalty. The ball was, I think it was an incompletion, and they endure a penalty. And then the Steelers are damn near at midfield in like 2-3 plays, they go on to score. The Steelers get the ball out of the half. The Bears knocked them down for like a 2-yard loss or something on a quick game thing. Flag in the air. Roughing the passer, I believe it was. A 15-yarder. So effectively, that bad field position trend continues. And what happens is you think, oh, no big deal. They got off the field with that penalty. Yeah, but the field flips. And so Justin Fields is on like the 7-yard line to start a drive. And he's got to go 93 yards down 14-3 or whatever it was at this point. That's fucked. And the Bears continued that first play of the fourth quarter. They endured a penalty on defense, like 14-15 to go. Trot out there, penalty. So penalties was the theme of the night. Justin Fields overcame a lot of those. He took a lot of free shots, but backed up. He was rolling left, I think, on third down. Beautiful throw, keep that drive alive. Then he hit Goodwin. Beautiful throw again. different kinds of throws, one on the run, one with touch and distance. And then a possession later, a ball down the seam to Kmet, which the window was, size. We're on YouTube here, so I can do this. Can't do this on the podcast. It's pretty cool. You can see me. Fucking window's like this big. Fit it right in there. Kmet got lit up. But great throw. I mean, he grew up in a tough environment to play, a loud place, one of the best spectacles in pro football. And I think he soaked it up and got better last night. And really, you could make an argument that the Bears should have won this game. I mean, he's got to see things like the free rusher on the boot. But I like the kid. You remember he got lit up in preseason. He wasn't seeing protections well. This will come. The kid is going to be just fine with the next group, if you know what I mean. He's going to be fine with the next group, the next coaching staff. He's going to be fine. Steelers defense, fun watching him and Minka, kind of like Minka keep an eye on Justin. He came down early in the game and tattooed Justin Fields, and that's a big guy he tattooed. And they were on the sideline, and some people wanted a flag on the Bears sideline. It's fucking pro football, man. Like, we can't be looking for roughing flags when your 6'3" quarterback turns into a runner on the sideline. Like, let's know the rules, and let's realize that he's bigger than most guys in the back seven. So don't feel sorry for him when he gets lit up by Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's a great player. And the second time they met on the sideline late in the game, Minkah, he's so good. He had Justin draped around Justin's shoulder pads and stayed off him. Was able to, that's a tremendous athletic play. To everything you're doing, you're running full speed to get Justin Fields down on the sideline. You're using the sideline, but you want to get a shot in on him, but you lay off, and as you're laying off, you run onto the tarp. So when you run onto a sideline, you're running off the field, and your cleats are not going to dig in the same way and put the brakes on the same way on that tarp. So a lot of times what happens is guys feel awkward, and then everybody falls. Minkah Fitzpatrick, great player, great athletic play there to lay off Justin Fields, but lit him up on the sidelines early. Steelers defense, always fun. TJ Watt, 3 sacks. Gets him in a lot of different ways. Get him on a boot. Gets him on an effort sack. He's so skilled. I mean, it's so automatic that he's going to be around the ball. What makes us know TJ Watt well, why he's a household name, is because he's a sack artist. But the reason he's a really great player, a Hall of Fame guy, is because he makes all the plays. He makes them all. And I know that I've bitched about PBUs and people celebrating about PBUs. Like JJ, every time he gets a PBU, he wags his finger, and I'm like, that's a PBU. TJ last night had the biggest play of the game, quite possibly, on that PBU with 5 seconds to go. Now, the Bears are down 3, I think it was. They lost 29-26, right? So they're down 3. They're driving. They're at midfield. They get a play that gets them to damn near midfield, and they have a 66-yard field goal at this point they can kick. They've got 4 seconds to go. The refs put a second back on the clock, and it's at this point I say, especially with the Steelers playing off, that the Bears should take an out. They really should. I hate Hail Marys. I love watching them, but if I need my team to win, I don't like watching them, and I was betting the Bears. At this point, I had lost the bet, so I didn't give a fuck anymore. But take the out. Take a shot at a 58-yarder. They couldn't get the out because TJ Watt batted the ball down. Smart play, and there was plenty of cushion to execute a 3-4 second out with 1 second to go, kick a 56-yarder, kick a 58-yarder. I don't know if my math's right, but I like the math there better than 66 or whatever it is. So not just the 3 sacks, also a big play down the stretch that you didn't make such a big deal about. And by the way, that kick did not hit the crossbar. I mean, Steve Levy, and that's a tough deal, looking at a kick and trying to gauge where it ends up. But you really have to be careful with Bears fans when you talk about like a football hitting a crossbar. Maybe it makes a thud. Maybe it makes a dong. Maybe it makes a doink. You really I do not appreciate Steve trying to trigger Bears fans. I don't appreciate it at all. It's not funny. It's not funny that y'all thought the ball hit the crossbar for 6 seconds last night. At this point, my teaser's dead. Sorry, I can laugh. Najee Harris. Najee Harris played great. Great usage for him. I thought when they drafted him, the narrative was they don't have an O-line. They couldn't protect last year. Teams are going to load the box. Why? well, he's been most of their offense all year long, and he was great. He was patient last night. He did not sleep on the floor in college. That was one that you got to double check that if you're in that booth, because they told a story about him. He was homeless for a while. This is a real thing. But they said when he got to Alabama, he slept on the floor for like months because that was more like, I don't know where these stories come from. I don't know who makes that story up and how it makes it onto the production sheet at Monday Night Football. You might want to check that one before you're like, yeah, the fucking guy slept on the floor, because Najee Harris came right out of the game, checked his phone in his locker, and got a bunch of texts from people like, you slept on the floor? Like his roommates like, what the fuck did you sleep on the floor? What are you telling these guys? Obviously, Najee didn't tell him that. They heard it. They read about it somewhere. Like me sometimes on a podcast where I read something and it's not true. But that's an interesting text message to get back to your locker and check. Big Ben did enough. Freiermuth is a good player. Like, he's a good player. I held his name against him. A guy like that has to fight through having a name like Freiermuth for a long time. And everybody's like, hey, he's unathletic. He's a blocking tight end. But really, he's got ball skills. Like, a guy like Freiermuth is supposed to be a blocking tight end. That's it. He's supposed to be like Spaeth, the guy that was in Pittsburgh, who, by the way, had the biggest vice grips of all time. Like, he held the fuck out of you every play and got away with it. I thought he was going to be more like with a name like Freiermuth, you think he'd be more like Spaeth than Heath Miller, who, by the way, could block too, and drew comparisons last night. That's a huge compliment. The ball skills on this kid, I mean, in the red zone for them, it's big. It is big. Kicking game was great. Boswell was great. A week after that hellacious concussion where he got glitched out of the fucking screen, he looked like all y'all if you guys got zapped into a pro football uniform and they were like, hey, take a snap. That's what y'all would look like. That's how Bosworth looked when he rolled right and ran out of places to throw the ball. It was like I could hear the clock. He got drilled. He got roughed. But we're not looking out for kickers in the passing game. Last night, he drilled multiple field goals, including the go-ahead field goal that won the game with some distance. He also, the most impressive thing to me that would tell me that Boswell is a fucking football player. He's officially a football player. Is he fielded a ground ball with a whole herd of bears coming at him. One of his dudes fumbled and the ball popped. No, it was one of the Bears fumbled or
Bears fumbled.
Yeah, Bears fumbled. Bears fumbled. And Bosworth, he's got this Sunday hop coming right at him. That's the good news. But the bad news is I think as the ball is coming to him, he realizes that a week ago I was tasting spinal fluid on the sideline. Like maybe I just get out of the way. He is officially a football player. He caught the ground ball. He took the hit. He was like on his knees. I thought he was going to get folded back like a cheap lawn chair. Like got run over by a tractor or something. Like he was just in the most inopportune position, but he found a way to stand in there, take the hit. He also drilled some field goals. He's a fucking football player, this guy Boswell. Shout out to him. But the refereeing took over this football game, right? That was unfortunately for the NFL. That was the news this morning, and you don't need that. Like the news you've had the last week is like star quarterback lies about vaccine, and then goes on Pat McAfee's show and makes more news. Odell and Baker don't get along. You know, you had obviously terrible things coming out of Vegas. You had the drunk driving accident, that tragedy that Henry Ruggs caused. And then Damon Arnett has he has Taliban guns in his house, dude. I'm just going to be real. Like when you have the AK with the brown handle with the wood stock, where did you get that, dude? I mean, I guess maybe a lot of people have that stuff, but he had a lot of fucking guns, man. They said he crashed four rental cars. I don't know how you do that. When you go back to, do you hit the different desk every time? Like the first time you go to dollar and you get a Chrysler 300C, then you total that motherfucker, and then you go to budget, you get a minivan and you crash that. Like eventually you're going to get you come back to the airport and they're like, not again, dude. The Vegas thing is it's been a tough couple weeks. And by the way, the Giants game, I tweeted this yesterday. I might bet the Raiders this weekend. I'm not willing to bury the Raiders yet because they've been through so much and they found a way to string together a couple good wins. I had Keyshawn on the show. He talked about the Italian Stallion, as he called him, Bisaccia, the head coach now, for the interim head coach for the Raiders, and how much gravitas this guy has, and some of the other great coaches that they have on their staff. And that team is tough. They've been through a lot. They'll be fine. The Raiders traveling east is a bad proposition. If you're going to bet the Raiders, don't bet them traveling east, and definitely don't bet them on the tail end of a run like that where they shouldn't have been winning. So I say that to say there's been a lot of bad news in the NFL. It was a really fun football game last night. We're not talking about Justin Fields. We're not talking about TJ Watt. We're talking about Tony Corrente. I mean, he made himself the star of the show. You already missed a call on the low block, right? They showed that with the tackle box. That was bogus. You missed a Justin Fields roughing, which 5 plays ago on the last possession, the very reason that you had bad field position was because you just overcame bad field position because the Steelers got roughed. And it was nothing compared to the 3-step unloading that somebody did to Justin Fields. Justin Fields was just laying there. There was a shot of Justin Fields just laying there. And it was just evident that this kid was getting the raw end of the deal. But D linemen were getting the raw end of the deal, which is normal. We're used to that. There's a fucking National Tight Ends Day. You guys, it's the easiest position in the world to become a tight end. Tim Tebow became a tight end, dude. That's what Tim Tebow did. Tim Tebow was like, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Like, how do I sell tickets in this motherfucker for Jacksonville? Urban Meyer's like, how do I get my neighbor on the team? Let's hide him at tight end. There's a National Tight Ends Day. We get our ankle twisted like Brian Burns. We get fined for shitty calls all the time. Nobody knows who we are. Like Shaq Barrett if he walked around a mall in New York City, nobody would recognize him. Okay? Guy practically won the Super Bowl, him and JPP, for the Bucks. And then we get hip checked by officials. Like, what's next? What's next? We get no respect. At least they pay us. You get paid, you rush the passer because you got to deal with all this bullshit. By the way, the Brian Burns thing, that was dirty. I saw it you can call it what you want to call it. I saw the video. I saw the new angle, and my man twists his ankle. He twists his ankle. Call it what it is. Pats fans, of course, they've never done anything wrong. And I'm on y'all's side on Deflategate. I don't know about Spygate. Deflategate, I'm on your side. Anklegate, not on your side. Corrente bumped into to Cassius Marsh like he was fucking Jokic. I mean, Cassius Marsh is like, what just happened? Cassius Marsh is on his 8th team. My man got to Chicago after being on the Steelers practice squad, just got called up because a bunch of people are hurt. And Cassius Marsh finds himself getting a sack. By the way, shout out to 97 on the assist there. He's on the ground. He's off the ground. Gives Cassius Marsh a little bit more time to rush. Comes up with the sack. Does a sick karate kick. Cassius Marsh, awesome dude. Into magic cards and shit. Also, evidently kung fu. Just takes a look at his old teammates, which anybody could do that. Like, I've made plenty of plays and just looked at the other sideline. Looked way worse than that at the other sideline. And there's like a 4-second delay before the guy throws the flag. And this is where people are confused. I will give Tony Corrente this. He's got his hand on his flag because, the Bears did something good. Before he bumps into Cassius Marsh, before he does like the fucking salsa into Cassius Marsh. And as soon as Cassius Marsh kind of passed him, he's like, what the fuck, dude? You're like the guy at the bathroom, like in front of the bathroom at the bar. Tony Corrente was the guy who, when you're trying to get to the bathroom at the bar, dudes just kind of like lean into you like it's their hallway. That was what Tony was like. Cassius was confused, and he gets to the sideline, and then he's getting his ass ripped by coaches. He's like, dude, I didn't do anything. I didn't bump into the official. He bumped into me. I looked at the sideline, like, whatever. I didn't say a thing. Taunting shit's gotten out of control. 40-something flags this year so far on taunting. I think 47, Taylor said.
31 total taunting flags.
That was my guess, was 47.
Yeah.
So there's misinformation there, guys. But 31 taunting flags, but in 2020 and 2019 combined?
Only 20.
Only 20. Total. In 19 and 20 taunting penalties. There have been in the 30s this year. The race to 50 taunting penalties. At some point, we're going to get tired of this shit. It was like a couple years ago with PI, maybe it was. People after a few months were like, guys, we can't live like this anymore. And the NFL stopped emphasizing that call. It's about time the NFL stops emphasizing taunting. They can make it go away. They've done it before with other calls. Make it fucking go away. Because nobody likes it. Unless you're doing the thing, and I posited this before, like bad officiating is good money for the NFL. We haven't turned it off. We got through the replacement refs. We've gotten through a bunch of, but we got through LA, New Orleans. We got through a bunch of taunting penalties, DPIs, the whole 9 yards. We're going to watch football. When are people on Twitter talking about the game the most? When there's a bad call. That's the time when everybody gathers. I made this argument with replay before. We got to have replay because if you have replay, you have conversation. That's when the game stops and everybody talks. And so, like, I'm really anti-taunting, but maybe the NFL is looking at it like, hey, they're talking about us. All pub is good pub if we're the NFL because they're not going to turn it off. I mean, Bears' defensive penalties were terrible. I talked about them self-imposed. But when you rough Ben and then Justin gets drilled, you don't say anything. The low block penalty, the taunting, just a bad night for the refs. And a tough night for me. You know, I lost a bet, but also Cassius Marsh, who Mina Kimes said looks like me. She said Cole Beasley and Cassius Marsh, or me and Cole Beasley made Cassius Marsh. He kind of does look like me. He's got tattoos. He wore 91 in Seattle when I was in St. Louis. And by the way, I love this kid. He's a great kid. People were like, "Oh, he's a little C long. He weighs a lot less than me." But yeah, I mean, he's got tattoos. He wore 91. He's a pass rusher. He's a white pass rusher. Got it, guys. You guys think he's a white pass rusher. You think he's a white pass rusher. Just by the way, you think he's a white pass rusher. Joke's on you, Batman. But Cassius and Robert Quinn, my old rush mate, the guy that was my bookend in St. Louis, and we did numbers together for years, and that's my bro. Like, talked to him the other day. Now Cassius Marsh is trying to take my spot, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Tattooed white guy rushing opposite Robert Quinn, and Robert Quinn bailed him out the next play, just like he used to bail me out after that penalty. Robert Quinn, gets Ben's ankle. Robert Quinn still got it, by the way. Basically 2 sacks to his name last night. Couple offsides. Got to realize Robert Quinn has a huge head. Robert Quinn's head is like a size 9 head. The helmet is the size of like a microwave. So he doesn't know that he's offsides. Okay, so people are like, I just don't understand. Louis Ridder's like, I don't get what he doesn't get. He's in his 11th year. His head's not getting any smaller. And these fucking O-linemen back up further and further off the ball. It's disorienting when you look across. Like, where's the line of scrimmage? The tackle's 6 yards back. And by the way, TJ Watt complained about JP leaving early and the tackles for the Bears leaving early. Like, how TJ Watt complains after a game like that where it was gift wrap for you. Come on, TJ. You're a great player. Awesome game. Just maybe leave it. The tackles leave early all the time. But Cassius Marsh, this whole time, Chris Long looking ass, Robert Quinn hanging out with ass, walks over to the sideline, and this is the part that tripped me out the most, and I'm on a gummy here. He starts talking to Alec Ogletree. He's talking to all my old friends. He's rushing with my old bookend. He's hanging out with my old friends. He's tattoos. Everybody thinks he's a white pass rusher. Intellectual property, IP, Cassius. But yeah, Bears defense gave their best. I want to give a shout out to the interior of that line. They played great, especially in short yardage. They pummeled Pittsburgh's interior. Like, you get into 4th and 1, Pittsburgh kept going for it. Their numbers are bad on 4th down, and that was a bad matchup. Like, they were crushing those dudes up front. So, if you're a Bears fan, my takeaway is you deserve like a medal. Because like I said, they're usually on the small TV. Last night they were on the big TV. There's only one TV on Monday night, and I had a rooting interest in y'all. and you would have delivered had I just bet the Bears, but I teased them. I might stop teasing for the rest of the year. Just go with my gut. So Bears fans, tip of the cap to you for enduring that shit every week. I mean, I was tweeting at y'all, is it like this every week? And for the Steelers, they're back in that, kind of mosh pit that is the AFC North. I mean, Steelers in the playoffs? I don't know. Feels normal. Feels like NFL playoff football. We'll see. All right. So maybe we'll see you next Tuesday on YouTube, on Greenlight Tube. Check out the podcast with the Grateful Dead cast folks, Jesse and Rich, and that'll be out tomorrow on Greenlight. And a reminder, we got Stanford Steve and James Coe every Friday, gambling, fantasy, and then Stanford Steve's going to visit us this weekend, by the way. It's on the record. Got confirmation Stanford Steve's coming in for Virginia Notre Dame. Hey, y'all take care.